and welcome to Capacity TV. My name is Nadine Hawkins and I'm the editor at Capacity Magazine. I'm joined at ITW 2024 by Stacie Pascale, Chief Product Officer at Aqua Comms. Thank you for joining us, Stacie. Firstly, can we talk about spectrum? Why is subsea spectrum such a hot topic just now, and what do businesses need to know when they're considering it?
Yeah, so spectrum is really something that's been around for a long time, especially in submarine, but it's only really been at the consortium level. So the concept of commercializing it more openly to customers is somewhat new to the submarine space. It's becoming increasingly popular really because of two main demand drivers. One of them is that a lot of carriers that used to buy in at the fiber pair level are finding that fiber pairs are very expensive and capital intensive, especially in submarine. They're difficult to operate and they're scarce. So a lot of customers that typically would buy the fiber pairs are now looking at a half or a quarter. Instead of buying a full fiber pair, it allows them to spread out their capex on multiple routes. It allows them to maybe get a little bit more bang from their buck from a diversity perspective. And then there's also the customers that are starting to really scale their bandwidth requirements. So whereas typically before they're buying 500 gig, maybe a terabit in the transatlantic, once they start to scale towards that 5 terabit type of need, you're at a quarter fiber pair there. So they're starting to think about the next 5-10 years worth of capacity demand that they have and look to secure room for that in advance on these subsea fiber pairs. So that's really the two things that are driving this. And I'd say what one should consider when buying spectrum in the submarine marketplace is really look at who are you buying it from. Do they own the full fiber pair? That's really essential to the way that the SLT is managed on either end. It's essential to how private your spectrum will be and how well cared for it is with your RLS systems and the ASE management that protects your spectrum from any interference from your neighboring spectrum. So at Aqua Comms, we've put together what we call a good neighbor clause. So everyone who's got a neighboring spectral band is all under the same contractual agreements that require them to stay in their lane, essentially. Don't bother your spectral neighbor, operate correctly, operate within our parameters, and everyone can be happy. But that's really not the norm in the industry. So when you're out there procuring, just make sure that those kinds of safeguards are in place. So you can feel just as good about the next person who buys spectrum on the system as you do about your purchase.
It's really interesting. Can you tell us more about the new fiber pair being launched on AEC1?
Yeah, so AEC1 is the first subsea cable that Aqua Comms has ever had. And our last fiber pair is now full. It's a very popular system. It's a direct link from the US into Ireland. Since the last one filled up, we're bringing another one live, which is great. Just like with any other of our other systems, we're taking it all the way pop to pop. So we're taking it all the way from New York into Dublin, into London, and all the major metro hubs that customers need to be in. So rather than just the cable landing station, take it all the way just like the other ones. Now in 2024, there's all kinds of new research and information and technologies out there that can improve the sustainability of cable systems. So even though this cable system has already been built, it will be much more sustainable than our last fiber pair, because this fiber pair will have new technology that will drive down the power consumption per meg. We'll be able to regen less in our cable landing stations, which will draw down the power consumption, and we'll also be able to simplify our backhauls a little bit to remove some of the ILA requirements and ultimately create a little bit of a greener path.
It's amazing. And Aqua Comms are to test and launch Siena's WaveLogic 6 solution. Can you tell us more about what are the benefits?
Yeah, so I guess that kind of is a good segue into WaveLogic 6, which is that one of the technologies that enables a better power draw per meg is improvements in technology on either end. And WaveLogic 6 is a new piece of Siena equipment that's coming out. We're expecting that it will be able to put out 800 gigs worth of bandwidth, DLS to DLS, so pop to pop rather than cable landing station to cable landing station. So you might be able to get a full 800 gig New York to London, which is great. It hasn't been tested yet, but that's what they're expecting. And it'll improve the efficiency of the cable system, where you could probably get another 10 or 15% capacity out of systems that are already existing. So as much as we can squeeze out of the systems, the more sustainable they can be, the better we can monetize them and fit the customer need. And then it also has the same benefits of the previous technology, WaveLogic 5, where you have less cross-connect requirements, you can get a much bigger traffic trunk, per transponder. And so that's a great benefit for submarine customers looking for just a huge capacity trunk.
Yep, that's amazing. And you launched 400G waves lengths across AEC1, AEC2, AEC3. What's the uptake been in different markets?
Yeah, so I guess we consider all three of our cable systems to really be in the same market, kind of that North Atlantic market. And the uptick there, I would say, seems to be quicker than what we've seen terrestrially or otherwise. And I think a lot of that just has to do with the bandwidth demand in the transatlantic is just skyrocketing. It always has been. But our customers absolutely need 400 gig. They need much more than that, actually. So the opportunity for them to reduce cross connects on these fixed routes that they know they need big bandwidth pipes on is a really great benefit to the network. Versus, in other markets, metros and terrestrial markets and otherwise, you might be looking for a much more dynamic network. So maybe there's not quite the benefit you would see in submarine, but certainly in the transatlantic, it's been a great thing for our customer base. So for 400 gig, we've been told by equipment providers that we're one of the largest buyers of that technology so far. In the subsea space, we have a decent amount of uptick in customers buying it now. Our funnel throughout the rest of the year, 40% of the capacity that we have in the pipeline for 2024 is for 400 gig services. So it's really starting to follow that same pattern that 100 gig took with 10 gig, where everybody kind of went from 10 gig, upgraded to 100 gig. Now we're very quickly seeing customers need to move straight into 400 gig, or maybe someone who is buying 300 gig wants to just make that additional jump and they move over to the 400 gig transponder technology. And so it's been a significant part of our year this year, and we expect that customers will continue to transition over the coming years.
Stacie, thank you for joining us and telling us more about what Aqua Comms have got ahead of them, and thank you for joining us at ITW.